Blessed are they who have kept the flesh pure, for they shall become a temple of God. Now compare that with this. Drink a little wine for your stomach's sake. Both of these teachings claim to come from the same man, the Apostle Paul. Two texts, two completely opposite visions of the Christian life. Both say they're the real Paul. Welcome to one of early Christianity's fiercest battles. To understand this battle, we need to meet these two texts. Let's start with the radical one. The Acts of Paul and Thecla is an early Christian narrative about a woman named Thecla who hears Paul preach, abandons her fiancé, and devotes herself to total celibacy. This was no fringe document. It was enormously popular, widely read, translated into dozens of languages, and influential for centuries. Thecla became one of the most venerated female saints in Eastern Christianity. At the heart of this text sits a remarkable passage, Paul's alternative Beatitudes. Beatitudes are blessed are sayings, most famously from Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. But in the Acts of Paul and Thecla, Paul delivers his own set, and they push in one unmistakable direction. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are they who have kept the flesh pure, for they shall become a temple of God. Blessed are the continent, for to them will God speak. Continent here means sexually abstinent. Blessed are the bodies of the virgins, for they shall be well-pleasing to God, and shall not lose the reward of their purity. And then this one. Blessed are they who have kept their baptism secure, for they shall rest beside the Father and the Son. The baptism line reveals something fascinating. Some early Christians, including Roman emperors like Constantine, delayed baptism until their deathbed. The logic, baptism washes away all sin, so wait until you finish sinning. This beatitude warns against that strategy. And the culminating beatitude, blessed are they who have renounced this world, for they shall be well-pleasing to God. Blessed are they who have wives as if they had them not, for they shall become angels of God. And that angel reference is the key. In ancient Jewish and Christian tradition, angels were depicted as beyond sexuality, androgynous, asexual beings. To become like an angel meant transcending the body entirely. The theological chain is clear. Sexual abstinence leads to purity. Purity leads to resurrection. Resurrection means becoming like the angels. Now let's meet the other Paul. The Pastoral Epistles, 1 Timothy, 2 Timothy, and the Titus are letters attributed to Paul. But most critical scholars regard them as pseudonymous, meaning written under a false name after Paul's death by followers claiming his authority. Pseudonymous writing was a common and accepted practice in the ancient world, and the Paul of these letters sounds nothing like the Paul of Thecla. This Paul endorses marriage. He insists women will be saved through childbearing. He reinforces household order, husbands leading, wives submitting, slaves obeying. He tells Timothy to drink a little wine for his stomach, and he explicitly condemns those who forbid marriage, calling their teaching doctrines of demons. So we have two completely opposite visions of Paul. One demands celibacy as the path to salvation. The other demands marriage and household order. But the connections between these texts go even deeper than that. The villains tell the story. In the Acts of Paul and Thecla, two men named Demas and Hermogenes travel with Paul, but betray him. Their crime? They teach that marriage is acceptable and that chastity is not required for resurrection. These names are not random. They come directly from the Pastoral Epistles in 2 Timothy. Demas is described as a man who forsook Paul, having loved this present world. Hermogenes appears in the same letter as someone who turned away from Paul. The author of the Acts takes these names the Pastoral Epistles treat as minor disappointments, and transforms them into full-blown villains. They become the faces of a theology the Acts despises. The pro-marriage, pro-household theology of the Pastoral Epistles themselves, it gets better. After Demas and Hermogenes betray Paul, Thecla's jilted fiancé Samyrus takes them in. He hosts them at a lavish banquet, much wine, great wealth, a splendid table. The text lingers on these details. This is not neutral description. It's polemic. The enemies of the gospel in this story are defined by indulgence, rich food, fine wine, comfortable living. Now think about what the Pastoral Epistles actually recommend. Drink a little wine, manage your household well, enjoy the good things God provides. The villains of the Acts of Paul and the Thecla look exactly like the ideal Christians of the Pastoral Epistles. That parallel is not accidental, it's a deliberate attack. Here's the striking intertextual relationship. If the author of the Acts of Paul and the Thecla knew the Pastoral Epistles, like the text is written directly against them, if the author of the Pastoral Epistles knew traditions like those in the Acts, the pastorals are written directly against them. Either way, we're witnessing two camps in a direct literary conflict, each rewriting Paul to authorize their own position. Marriage, forbidden in one, required in the other. Sex, renounced versus endorsed within marriage. Women's roles, Thecla preaches and baptizes. 1 Timothy says women must be silent. Salvation, through celibacy in one, through childbearing in the other. Every single issue runs in opposite directions. So what do we make of all this? Why could both sides claim Paul so convincingly? Because Paul's authentic letters contain genuinely ambiguous statements. In 1 Corinthians chapter 7, Paul writes, "It is good for a man not to touch a woman." That sounds like the Paul of Thecla. But in the same chapter, if they cannot exercise self-control, let them marry. That sounds like the Paul of the Pastorals. Both camps extended real tendencies in Paul's thought. The ambiguity in his own words made this entire battle possible. This isn't a quirky footnote. It reveals how early Christianity actually functioned. There was no single Christianity in the 1st and 2nd centuries. There were competing movements, each constructing their own pole. The version that won, the Pastoral Epistles, became canonical scripture, part of the New Testament. The version that lost, the Acts of Paul and Thecla, was eventually marginalized, though it remained enormously popular for centuries, and the Thecla remained a beloved saint. Understanding this battle helps us see that the New Testament canon is not a neutral record. It's the product of specific victories in specific debates. When we read Paul today, we're reading the Paul that one side of this argument chose for us. But for centuries, there was another Paul, and millions of Christians followed him.